to start us off, I just want to define financial resilience. What do we mean when we say financial resilience, right? And for me, it's essentially two things, right? On the one hand, it's about having the ability, the capacity, or the elasticity to be able to bounce back or recover from a financial difficulty. That's what it is. So if you think about it, it's about the capacity, and on the other hand, you've got financial difficulties. So why would we want to have a topic like this and discuss, a topic like this? I think I've structured my talk today in four parts. The first part is we're going to talk about why financial resilience. Why do we need to build financial resilience? The second thing I'm going to be talking about is how do I relate this to where different people find themselves in their finances? Because some people might think, oh no, financial resilience is not for me because I'm doing okay, I'm doing fine. But we're also going to be exploring that. The third thing we're going to be talking about is now going back to the definition of financial resilience to explore what are some of those difficulties, right? And when you start exploring some of the difficulties that might happen, you may as well realize that none of us are immune to these financial difficulties. Whether you're doing well or you're not doing well, or you think you're doing well, none of us are actually immune to this. And then I want to end off my talk talking about how do we start building the capacity? How do we start building the ability, the elasticity that will enable us to bounce back? That even if we might accept that these things might happen, but how do I actually prepare myself as an individual so that I'm better placed to be able to bounce back and to recover, right? So to start off, let's just discuss, why do you think it's important to build financial resilience? You're welcome to use the chat and also put in your comments. I've come up with 4 reasons why financial resilience. The first one is just that, we are living life, right? And life happens. And, none of us sitting here will know what actually happens tomorrow. Even as we woke up today, we actually don't know what awaits us for the rest of the day. We've got our plans, but, we actually don't know. Yes, we plan for tomorrow, we plan for the future, but we don't know. So life does happen. Right? So essentially what it means is that there are aspects that are outside of our control that we might not have control on. The second thing is life in itself comes with seasons. I always, laugh when I speak to Christians and I hear people talking about the story in the Bible where there was, the king dreamt of the 7 good years and the 7 years of famine. And, people talk about it, but what I actually see, which is actually baffling for me, is that we don't take these lessons and ask ourselves, what do these things mean for us? What do they mean for our lives? And also the fact that life is made up of seasons, right? That ability to be able to recognize which season you're in is very much important, because you could be in your bumper harvest season and then living like there is no tomorrow. But what you don't know is that after 7 years, the famine is going to start. So I think, that's also part of the reason why. The fact that, life has got seasonality. Go to the stock market. They talk about bull markets and bear markets. It's always about cycles, right? So how do we recognize that now I'm in a good cycle? What do I need to be doing when I'm in a good cycle? So that if the bad cycles do come, I'm actually covered. The third thing is, if we just look at the world and the rate of change in the world, I think the world is just becoming, things are changing at such a fast pace, and our money also needs to catch up with that. And that change also has introduced other uncertainties in terms of the way that we earn money, the way that we use money, how we save money, how we invest money, etc. And the last thing, or the last reason, is that why is it important? Hello? Oh, sorry. So the last reason for me is, why is it important for people to build financial resilience? And it's about adverse events happening, right? Adverse events may happen because of us doing things to ourselves number one. The second thing is that adverse things may happen because of other people intentionally bringing these things upon us. But also, there are things of nature. There are things of nature, natural disasters, all those things that may actually happen. So I hope I've given you enough reason to, to want to start building your own financial resilience. Now, the next thing I want us to talk about is to say, okay, I understand why we need to have financial resilience, but do these things apply equally to everyone? And the answer is yes and no. Why? Because I've seen in working with people with their finances, all people can be categorized into 5 categories in terms of the state they are in their money or with their money, the status of their finances, right? You can almost categorize them into 5. What are the 5? The first one is you find people that are just in a season of barrenness, financial barrenness. It doesn't matter what they do. You try this, you try that, you try this, you try that, and nothing just seems to be working, right? And that's a financial state that people find themselves in. The other financial state people find themselves in is what I call financial confusion. Financial confusion looks good on the outside, but behind closed doors and on the inside, the person knows themselves that I'm actually battling. Other people might be looking from the outside in, thinking, or it seems like you actually have it together, but there's a lot of confusion. You actually don't know where you are. You don't feel like you're winning. So I call that financial confusion. Then you find people that are in a financial loss situation. That means that your income might be reducing, or it has already reduced, or you've lost it altogether. Your debts might be increasing, or you've got an insurmountable amount of debt. Your assets, you don't even know what's going on with your assets because you don't even, keep track of them. So that I call financial loss. Then you've got people that are in financial stagnation, where you just feel stuck. It's like you're just stuck in one spot. I think for me, the person who's in financial stagnation and is aware that I'm actually stagnant is 10 times better for me than the person who is in financial stagnation, but they have no clue which state they're in. Because at least if you know what's going on, you are able to actually start doing stuff to improve that. And the last state, which is the state that I want all of you beautiful ladies to be in, that is the state of financial thriving. How do you thrive in your finances? Because you can see your income is growing steadily, or it's grown. It's at a level that enables you to run your life the way that you want to run your life. You have a handle over your debt, or you've actually eradicated all your debt. Your assets are increasing and improving over time. So I call that financially thriving. And that is the state that I would like all of us here to be on the journey of becoming. So I say, regardless of whatever state you find yourself in, right? All of us need to bring in a measure of financial resilience. We need to take steps of financial resilience. I mean, I give an example of companies. Do you know that companies actually run what they call fire drills? Yeah. In the event that a fire hits this building, what happens? How are we going to evacuate the building? You've seen it even in shopping malls, right? Businesses have mastered this idea of resilience. And so it's also incumbent upon us as individuals to also start mastering this idea of financial resilience. You need to be putting yourself in that situation. If there was a fire in the building, you are trained already to know how to evacuate the building. You are trained to know how to keep all the information, the backups that you need, so that you can quickly as possible come back, bring back the business online, because your customers are waiting. They don't care that your building has burnt down. So that's what we're talking about here today. So remember the 2 things we spoke about. It's about, firstly, identifying what difficulties might come upon our money, but also on the other hand, it's about identifying how we start building the capability, the capacity, the elasticity that will enable us to bounce back. So now we're going to be talking about difficulties. Can I just see in the chat, ladies, what are some of the difficulties that you think might come upon our finances? As they're coming up, Carol, please help me if people are typing messages. I've identified a few myself. So the biggest one that I've seen actually affects a lot of people is when they lose their income. So either your income reduces or you lose it altogether. You know, you were running your business, you lost the big client that you had, and that happened to be 60% of your business. And now you are in a situation where you've actually experienced some difficulty, right? The second thing that can happen is your assets lose value. So maybe you didn't make the right, investment decisions, or you made the right investment decisions, but something else out of the ordinary, like COVID, for example, came, and now you've lost the value of your assets that you had. Now, let's talk about other things. People talk about the D's, the deadly D's, right? Things like disease, yeah? You were running your business quite well, but then, you fell ill, disease came on the show. What then, right? Someone can get into an accident or something, becomes disabled. Now you've lost that ability to generate the income that you had. So disability is one of those. Death, right? Death is something that we know is so sure on all of us. At some stage, it might come, right? What then do we do? And then, I spoke about, destruction that might come from natural causes or from other people causing it. Your assets are destroyed, all the things that you've worked for can get destroyed or damaged. The other one, I put it under the umbrella of drugs, right? Not all of us will do drugs, but just for what drugs stand for. It's about the addictions that come from using drugs. What are the addictions that come? Some people are struggling, for example, gambling. For example, some of these lifestyle choices that people make that then introduce an element of risk in your finances. We can name these difficulties, from here to Kimberley, but I think you get the picture of what it is we're talking about. And you can see that regardless of your current financial state, these things can hit on anybody, right? Divorce, that's, it's another difficulty, life difficulty that translates into a financial difficulty. Now let's talk about how do we start building the capacity for flexibility and adaptability, because for you want to have the capacity or capability that you're able to absorb these things when they come. How do you do that? So the first thing, actually, I say to people, when I was talking about these 5 categories, some people might know which category they fall under. But in all honesty, given the people that I coach, I've got a number of clients that I coach who actually don't even know which category they're in. So when you ask people, how do you feel about your money? People are always stressed and they always report negative emotions. Why? Because they don't even know where they are. So it's very difficult for them to know what it is that they need to do as the next step. So now the first thing is you need to take stock. What does taking stock mean? It means that at any given point in time, you need to be able to say, even if you're a business owner, right? You need to be able to say, okay, my business generates this amount of revenue, income every single month. I know this is how much I'm making. I know how much it costs me to run the business. I know how much it costs me to run my life. I know the amount of debt that I owe. I know the assets that I have, and these are the values. Those things, we need to know them, right? And knowing them alone is not enough. You then need to ask yourself, okay, now that I know the numbers, I call it knowing your numbers. Now that I know the numbers, what are the numbers telling me? And I talk about 3 ways that you can use to determine whether you're actually doing well or not. The first one is you could benchmark how well you're doing using your age. And it's simply taking the total assets you have minus anything you're owing, that is called your net worth. So that amount, if you relate it to your age, how do you compare whether you're doing well? It's simply taking the income you would make in a year, multiply that by your age, divided by 10. That is the amount of assets or that you should have accumulated, given your income, given your age. So that's the first benchmark where you're comparing yourself. How am I doing in relation to other people? The second way you can benchmark yourself is what I call the wealth ladder, because finances is very personal. the amount of income you generate is one variable, but also how much of that is consumed in your lifestyle is also then quite important, right? So with your wealth ladder, there are different steps where you start by saying, okay, step number one, am I now making enough income? Am I generating enough income, regardless of the source of the income, on a consistent basis to cover my lifestyle or my current expenses? That's step one. Step two, you start going into saying, okay, have I now eradicated all consumer debt that I have? So I know I'm making enough, income to cover my lifestyle. Have I eradicated or paid off all consumer debt? So that is everything that you're owing outside of your house and your car. That is consumer debt. Step number three, do you see how it goes? So that is what I call a wealth ladder. I mean, I only have 20 minutes today, so I can't go into detail with everything. But essentially, that's a wealth ladder where you are looking at what your numbers are telling you in relation to your circumstances. Then the last one is about velocity. And that is the one I want you to remember today. Velocity, remember, we learned in school that it's about speed in a particular direction. So the direction you're taking with your money is more important. So we want to see a velocity that says your income is increasing, your debts are coming down, you've got a handle on your expenses or your consumption. So you know that that number is stable, but if you can reduce it further, you reduce it further. But it should give a big margin between what you're earning and what you need to consume. And then also your assets need to be growing. So every single month, when you generate income, you need to see that, okay, the total assets I had last month were 100,000. This month, I've added another 2,000 rands. So my assets have grown by up to 202,000 rands. And all those things are discipline and consistency. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is, let's talk about income. With your income, remember I've already said it needs to be increasing. The other thing is you also need to diversify the sources of your income. So very well, you've got your business. What else are you doing to start diversifying, those sources of income? You had people that had thriving businesses before COVID, and then COVID hit and they lost everything they had. But where people had taken the generous income they're generating from their businesses to create other sources of income, creating multiple streams of income, you find that those people were less, they were less hit. We talk about, business assets. I mean, all of you ladies are business women, so you have that. Investing in income generating assets. That's one thing you want to write down. Let's talk about on the other side. So on the other side, you've got your expenses and your debt, right? So how do you create the capacity and the ability for you to bounce back? The first thing is, and it sounds very cliche, but it's as simple as that. Cut down any unnecessary spending. Create a margin between your income and your consumption, because that margin will actually assist you. So, I mean, we heard in this, during this pandemic, a lot of people lost 10% of their income, 20% of their income, 30% of their income, right? And if you were consistently, if you already had a margin in your income versus your expenses, that salary cut, or sorry, I'm talking about salary with business people, that your reduction in income in your business would not hit you as much if you had that margin. And then I want to also say, when the ship is sinking, what do you do? Because I think some people really, we struggle. We really, really struggle to prioritize and understand what is important. Is this very big house important more than, anything else? If I've got like 2-3 assets, how do I prioritize which one must go, which one must stay? And there is another story. Sorry for referring to the Bible a lot, but I learn a lot from it. But there's a story in the Bible where the ship was sinking. And these people were carrying precious cargo on the ship. And I know all of us ladies, we are also carrying precious cargo in our lives, right? And that precious cargo is worth very much. And, when we start talking about financial resilience, sometimes you've got to let some of that cargo go, as expensive as it might be. Why? Because when it comes to the bottom of it, remember, it's about 4 things. What are those 4 things? Roof over your head, food in your stomach, your ability to work or go to work or generate your income, and the ability to educate your children. So when you're struggling to say, okay, what do I prioritize? Do I let this thing go? Or what do I do if you find yourself particularly in that financial loss, situation we spoke about? Remember, it's about the 4 things. So when the ship is sinking, offload the cargo. No matter how emotionally connected you might be to it, you need to offload. Now, in closing, I just want to say, remember, money is a lot more than the rands and cents that we talk about. Every single choice you're making, every single decision you're making, particularly your habits that you practice on an ongoing basis, those will either help you to progress or regress when it comes to your money. And there is no middle ground. So think carefully about the choices, the decisions you're making, and make sure that these are decisions and choices that are moving you forward. And in closing, ladies, I just want to say that, remember, it's okay to actually, don't be afraid of making small progress. Be afraid of stagnation itself. And as you build your financial resilience, remember these few ideas that we've shared here today. Thank you so much.